Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing how my sextortion story led to self-harm. So I'm going to be going over my self-harm journey, where I'm at today, where I was when I was only 15 years old when I experienced my sextortion. I have a video on my sextortion experience. I'll link it right here. I also have another video that discusses what is sextortion and goes into depth about education and more resources, which I'll put right here as well. Before we get into this video, I wanted to mention that I was recently on Sarah Klein's podcast, which is called Bar Fights. And so I highly recommend going and taking a listen. I talked to Sarah Klein, who is a survivor of sexual abuse and is an advocate as well. I talked to her about my story, and we discuss victimization and education for children and adults, and it was a very great conversation. I feel very blessed that I was able to go on to her podcast and share my story and talk to her about these pressing, really important issues. So if you have time, I highly recommend going and listening to that. I will put that right here. And there are two parts. The first part discusses my childhood sexual abuse and my sextortion victimization. The second part discusses more of my sextortion victimization, as well as my rape that I experienced in college, and then my advocacy work that I have done since then. So let's get into this video. My sextortion lasted 92 days. It was consecutive. It happened in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and my perpetrator liked to see me in pain. That was one of his, for lack of a better word, kinks, which is just really disgusting. Because I was a 15-year-old who was being blackmailed. My perpetrator began with self-harm and self-mutilation as a tactic to arise fear in me. He started with having me cut myself, and I want to put a trigger warning before I start all of this because it is graphic and it is really difficult to hear and can be triggering for other people that have experienced self-harm or have been made to self-harm by a perpetrator, which is very common and people don't know that as well. But my perpetrator began with having me cut, so using razor blades, using X-Acto knives, using scissors to cut parts of my skin off. And he liked to see me bleed, he liked to see me in pain. And that is what began my self-harm journey. So after the 92 days of sextortion, when I was able to go through the criminal justice system and he was punished, I continued to self-harm without being commanded to, because it became a way for me to get more in touch with myself and my body. Feeling pain was easier than feeling all of the emotions of the trauma of the sextortion. So for me, cutting, it was a way of saying I'm still alive and I wanted to feel something. And the only way for me to feel something at a point in time when I was extremely numb was to cut myself. I've been asked, would you have started self-harming if your perpetrator didn't begin that for you without your consent? And I can't say yes or no, but I think that it would have been a lot less severe, and I think that it wouldn't have lasted as long as it has. And I want to be very clear, my self-harm went from cutting to trichotillomania and excoriation, and that is going to be another video that I'm going to address, because it's a type of self-harm that a lot of people don't think about, and a lot of people don't know those terms, but a lot of people experience on a daily basis. So I self-harmed from the time that I was 15 until I was 17 years old, and that was all cutting using razor blades, knives, anything I could get my hands on, to be very honest. And I stopped self-harming in that way around my second semester of my freshman year of college, and that was after the criminal justice system, my case had concluded at that point, and that is also when I began to pick. So those picking hair is trichotillomania, picking skin is excoriation, and those have since been a part of my life. Depending on how much stress is in my life at that time, and depending on what my support system looks like at the time, weighs heavily on whether I am engaging in those things or not, which both of these terms are in the DSM-5 TR, which is the most recent diagnostic manual. And since I'm getting my master's in social work, I have studied a lot about psychopathology, which goes in depth about excoriation, which goes in depth about trichotillomania and excoriation. So I have gone through classes that discuss exactly what I am dealing with and exactly what I am still struggling with here and there today, not to the extreme that I used to, but it definitely is not an easy thing, and it is something that people struggle with their entire lives. And that is a big part of how my sextortion led to self-harm, because all of my self-harm originated from my sextortion experience. And unfortunately, that became a very easy way for me to cope with triggers and trauma, was to self-harm, because I had been taught that in the worst way possible. I share this story to say that sextortion can create so many issues and things that arise that can be with you for the rest of your life. And that just goes to show how incredibly impactful sextortion is. And it's really heartbreaking. And that's not funny, but I think a way that I deal with my story is through humor. I have very dark humor, and I would say that it can be healthy at sometimes, especially if you are someone like me who has experienced a lot of victimizations and tries to look at the glass half full and wants to work in this space every day, but also doesn't want to experience burnout or compassion fatigue or anything like that. I want everyone to know who's listening to this video that if you struggle with self-harm, there is help out there. I will be linking in the description a lot of different resources that can help you and help you in your journey to stopping self-harm and to being healthy and using different coping mechanisms that are healthy And I want you to know that you are not alone and that a lot of people struggle with these issues. I know firsthand how difficult it is to quit, and I know that it's a really easy thing to just do, and the shame that goes along with it is really difficult as well. So know that you're not alone, know that you can heal, and that with the correct resources and support system and information, you can get help and you can stop self-harming, and I'm here for you. And you can always direct message me on Instagram or comment on these videos, and I love when people are able to share their stories with me, because that's what I used to do. I used to watch videos for people who experienced these types of victimizations and would reach out to them personally, and that is a way that I healed, by talking to other survivors. So I would love to be able to be that for other people as well. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I really appreciate you listening to my story and talking about these difficult topics. So thank you again, and bye.